All right, what's up everyone? This is Don with Third Creative, and this is the walkthrough tutorial video for Radius multi-sport Photoshop template. In this very thorough video, I'm going to walk you through all the layers and the processes and hopefully cover anything and everything that you might need to know in order to create the best images possible using this design. Before we jump into the template itself, just talk about some of the options. I was working on cleaning this up and polishing it up and trying to add a little more substance to it. It was originally a very clean, simple design, and I feel like it still is, but I was able to add some options. We'll kind of work our way down to this graphic right here. So a couple built-in options to highlight. Two different background looks. You can see the left versus the right. The left reflects or is closest to what it was in its original form when I originally created it for a softball team a while back. And then when I was working on it, I wanted to see what it would look like with a smaller circle in the background. So I wasn't able to make up my mind, and I was like, why not just throw both in here? So you can see we've got two background options depending on the look that you want to go for. And then we also tried to keep it simple with the font options and basically have two font themes that you can choose from that are built into the template. Now, as always, you can substitute any font for a font of your choice, but I tried to find two primary fonts. So you can see the subject's name. We've got the two fonts that I selected, and supporting subtext fonts that just seem to work well with the design. So those are built in. You just have to download the fonts. They'll be on your PDF file. But as we look at some of the sample images, I guess if I go up, you'll notice on, I guess we can look at this one. If we zoom in, we've got repeating text kind of in the background here. I'll zoom in a little bit, and then you can see it's very subtle, but we've got these circles. It's a very circle themed template. That's the name Radius. But you'll see in my sample images, get it down a little bit, you've got options like, so this one, we left the circles on. They're very subtle, but I decided to not go with the repeating text. Same thing on the right. I used the other theme, but I got rid of the repeating text, and I also got rid of the very subtle circle overlay. Let's see here, we've got the other font theme. We've got no circle overlay on either. We've got no repeating text on the left, repeating text on the right. You can see we've got a little bit more. So you've got these options depending on what layers you want to turn on or turn off. You can do repeating text in the background, or you can turn it off. You can do the circle overlay or turn it off. You've got the font options, you've got the background options, all kinds of options. So it's just something I always try to do, give you flexibility so you can see some of the possibilities that you can come up with these different sample images that you see here. Let's jump into it. As always, I like to start at the bottom, but I also like to suggest or recommend that you familiarize yourself with the template. This one is pretty simple. We got basically three folders. Now, if you turn them off, turn them on, you can see what everything is, what's in each of these folders. This bottom one has the bulk of the assets here. So we'll take a look at it. We'll open it up, background layers. Now, I think first things first, you want to decide which theme you want to go with. So if you look here, at the very bottom, we've got our change background color. I guess we'll start there. That's what we normally do. If you double click that icon, you'll get your color picker. You can sample from the jersey, or if you just want solid white, you can pick that. But basically use the slider, kind of move around in here, find the color that you want. You're good to go. But next we have our two background options. Now the large circle option is turned on by default. If you want to go with the smaller circle option, you would just simply click on this little eyeball here to turn this one off and come up to the one above it where it says small circle design option. And we want to click in this space right here to turn that on. So that's the first choice. that you need to make. Once you have the one that you want to use turned on, you would then jump into the subfolder, and here we've got some more options. So go to the bottom of it. We've got our circle shape, change color. So this is this large circle. It is currently navy blue. If you want to change the color, you would simply double click on the word color overlay. We'll get your layer style panel up. We've got this little box here. We can see we have color overlay selected. If it comes up with anything else selected, just make sure that, all right, so color overlay, click on the box, you get your color picker. Same thing. You can pick any color you want. You can sample from the jersey to get a good starting point. But that is how you will change the background color there. Now, if you want that color to match some of these other fonts, you might even go as far as to, while you have this open, hit Control or Command C to copy this color code, and that will allow you to paste it as you work your way through customizing the other layers. The next layer that we have is our repeating background text. So let's talk about this. Turn it off if you don't want it. As you saw in the sample images, that's definitely an option. If you do want it, you just want to open this up, and you will see repeating text. It's a smart object, but it basically says repeating text, open this smart object to edit. And it says see the video. So this one stumps some people if they haven't used any of my templates that have repeating text. It might throw you for a loop, but all the lines are in this red folder. It's red. In this case, I'm using red to say you don't need to bother with it. Really, we want to focus on this one here. And so we will double click this icon and it will open the smart object. Now, I probably should have made the text a darker color so that you would be able to see it, but if it helps, you can just double click on either of these and select darker color. You can select any color you want here just to see it. It's not going to be that color when we go back to the template, but you can see I've got Maverick Soccer here. Now, this is the first place where we're running into this, but the two font options, I'll have more to show you as we work our way through the layers, but depending on which font option you want to go with, we've got the seafoam color for, let's see, let's make this one dark too. Actually, we don't have it selected. There we go. That way we can see them both. I guess I didn't fill up the space on this one, but that's okay. So you can see the two font selections. So just make sure that you turn on the one that you want to use and stick with that font. So if you choose the seafoam one, stick with that. If you choose the green one, stick with that. Now, to change the text, you would just simply double click this little T icon. We've got everything selected. So right now it says Maverick Soccer. Let's say that we're going to go with Bulldog Baseball. So type out what you want it to say one time, then hit your space bar to get a space. Now once you've done that, to save you from having to continue to type it and risk typos, you can make sure you have this spelled correctly. As long as you do, go ahead and click and drag to highlight what you've typed, including the space that you have there at the end. Now on your keyboard, you can hit Control C on Windows, Command C on Mac. That's going to copy this text. Once you've done that, on your keyboard, hit the right arrow key, and that will place your cursor to the right. From here, you can hit Control V or Command V, depending on if you're on Windows or Mac, and just keep doing that until you fill up the space. That's probably good enough. If it runs off, that's fine too. Once you have it filled up, hit the check mark, and we can go ahead and close this with this little X here. When you close it, you're going to get this window. This is very important. If you just hit enter, it's already on don't save. That's bad. We want to make sure we click on save. When you click on save, it's going to save everything you changed, and it will be reflected in the other template once it goes back. So you can see that it has changed the text. So we've got that taken care of. We'll go ahead and close that, and I'm actually going to default back to what it originally said. Now this is housed within 2 subfolders. So we've got, when you open it up, we've got this, we've got another subfolder. These are layer masks. One is to create the spotlight effect, so that's a soft vignette, and we have this hard line to make sure that it doesn't run onto the white section here. Now on the main folder itself, you'll see these effects. Now I currently have the fill up here at 0, and that's what makes it transparent. So if I bring the fill up, it's going to make it all show the inside color. So depending on what you want, I think that looks bad. So very rarely could I find a situation where I wouldn't just stick with a stroke outline only. So stroke is already turned on. I've got inner shadow, color overlay, drop shadow. Those are things that you can turn on and play around with if you want. But when I was making my subject or sample images, I pretty much stuck with this if I had it on at all. So double click the word stroke. It's going to bring up your layer style panel. It should have you on the stroke section already, where you will see this color swatch that you can click on, and it'll bring up your color picker. So we've done this a few times already. Now, this is my opinion. It's not a firm rule, and obviously rules are meant to be broken sometimes, but it is my opinion that you don't want strong contrast. So I'll give you an example. That's not too bad, but it becomes pretty distracting. So you don't want it too contrasty from your background, but you don't want it too close to your background, because then you won't be able to really even tell that it's there. And so you can play around with it and find a color that you think works. You want to be able to see it, but you don't want it to become so distracting that it takes away from the image, if that makes sense. So take a minute, play around with it, find the sweet spot. You can also increase the value. If you want it to be a little bolder, you can change this from 2 to 3 or maybe 4, or you can drop it down to 1 if you want it thinner. I really wouldn't get too much greater value than 3 or 4, because it just looks too much. And that's pretty much it. So that is our repeating text option. Next we have our large center letter. So obviously the large center letter, if I turn it off, you can see what it's referring to. Let's go with a different letter. We just double click on that T icon. I'm going to put in a B. Now we'll go ahead and hit the check mark. You're going to need to position this yourself. Now the design is intended to have the letter touching this lower portion, but that's up to you. If you want to leave it smaller, centered, you can do something like that. I'm going to click on one of these corner anchors, hold down shift so that it maintains proportions, and I'm going to make it a little bigger, and I'm going to try to move it in place, holding down shift again. You can make it as big or as small as you want to and position it how you want to. You have to keep in mind that your subject's going to cover a good portion of it, so you want it to be big enough where you can make out what it is. And some letters work better for that than others, but I created some additional options that we're about to get into that kind of help with that. So that's all there is to that. Now the color, typically you would want to come down here to the color you selected for your background. Now this is pure white, so that's very simple, but if you did pick some random color, you'd want to copy this color code here so that you can come up and let's see, we'll use our contextual toolbar to get this, and you can paste that code in. That's what will make them match. And obviously there's a theme here where the letter matches the background area color. So I played around with making them different colors. I really didn't like the way it looked in all of my sample images, but you may find yourself in a situation where you want it to be a different color. So I guess just for example, maybe you want it red. See, I think it looks better white. Totally up to you. You've got options there. But the important thing is once you change the letter that you scale and position it how you want it. Now, the next one we have our vertical text option in parentheses that says left. So we've got different options depending on where your letter, what space it takes up and how it fits on your canvas would determine which one of these options you use. So it's not going to look, in fact, let me get back to the M. It's not going to look right on all of these, but if I turn that off and go with the vertical right, you can see it's the same thing. It's just on the right side, facing inward. And then if you turn this off, you can go with the horizontal, and obviously that's up here at the top, horizontal. Now, any of these, you can rescale and reposition. So depending on where it looks good, you can make it smaller, you can make it bigger, you can move it anywhere you want, any of them. That's up to you on which one that you use. If you need some inspiration, I suggest that you go to this page here and you can see some of the examples, different ways that I was able to do it. But inside each one you have two options, which is basically your two font options, your seafoam green or your regular green. So if I turn this off and turn on seafoam, you can see it's the same thing. It's already set up, it's just the alternate font. Now, regardless of which one you choose, you probably want to edit this. I have this set up where it will have this look, but if you just click on it and start typing over it, you're not going to retain it. So the way that you want to handle this or approach this is to double click on this T icon to get everything selected. Now you just want to pick which section you want to edit first. So maybe you want to edit 2026, maybe it's already 2027, or maybe you just want to change the color. But just highlight the portion that you want to change only, not the entire thing. So I would be able to put 2027, and I can highlight it again. I could come up here and I could change the color if I want to. So you just do one section at a time. Now this center bar here, you can select it, and maybe you want to change it to a different color only. We'll hit OK, we'll undo that, and we will now select just this bold section. So you can type over it, you can select it again, and you can change the color, but you get the idea. It's just one section at a time. Now this might seem like a lot of work, but just keep in mind this is not something that's changing on every image that you create. It's the team name, it's the year, you're doing it one time. So that's how you would approach it. Doesn't matter which font you choose, it's the same idea, same concept. So we'll turn that off, or get that back the way that it was, and close that up. So we'll take a quick look at the other option. It's pretty much the same thing, so we won't need to go over everything, but we'll open it up. Actually, that's not the one. Close that. We'll open this up. So here we have our team name, which it's going to be on the right facing in on all of these. So you pick which one you want to use, whether you went with regular green or the seafoam green, whichever one, make sure that you keep it the same. But it's the same thing. I just talked about one piece at a time. Highlight the piece that you want to edit and work from there. So we don't need to redo all of that. You get the idea. So we pick which one we want. We edit that. Next we have this accent line. So you can see we've got this thin line here. You could turn it off. That doesn't look bad. If you want it on, you can leave it on. And if you want to change the color, you simply click on the word color overlay to get our layer style panel and our color picker box. And we could maybe go with red. That's all there is to it as far as changing the color there. So now we've got our large center letter. We've already talked about that. That's the same. Here we have our circle layers. So here's something that you probably won't need to mess with, but there's a layer mask here, and that's what just cuts this section of this circle off. So if you see, if I hold down shift and click on it to turn it off, you can have a full circle if you want that. You could also click on this little chain link icon to unlock it, and if you wanted to move it out or move it in, you can move it around. More than likely, probably not going to need to do that, but inside here we have our repeating text, and it's pretty much the same setup. We've got a folder with our subfolder with another subfolder in it. We've got our stroke outline. We've talked about all of that. I guess the only other thing I would say is there is a possibility you may want this text to be larger, probably not smaller, but maybe. But regardless, if you want to increase the size, you would select this green layer, hold down shift, click on the red layer. This has all of it selected. Now you're going to need to pan out, I want to say zoom out, but that's backwards, so that you can see these proportion constrained lines, I guess. Click on one of the anchor points. I have to hold down shift to maintain proportions, shift and alt or shift and option to keep it centered, and you can come out. That makes it bigger, and then of course you could come in to make it smaller. Now I've already got it selected. I can move in to see what it looks like. I could move it left, which it's gonna have a little bit of lag. You can get it positioned how you want it if you want to finesse that. That is an option. But that's pretty much it for this option, which is very similar to the first one that we went over. Next, we've got our upper and lower half circles, so pretty self-explanatory. We've got one here at the top, we've got one here at the bottom. Now I have them in a folder with a color overlay, and this saves you just a pinch of time by being able to just change the color one time where it will mirror or match on both of them. There may be an instance where you either want them to be different colors, or maybe you don't want the top one on or you don't want the bottom one on. If you open it up and turn off this color overlay that's on the folder itself, then you can work with each shape layer independently. So I can turn one off. You can come here, make one color and make one the other, but you get the idea. You can also, if you are feeling adventurous, you can make them larger, you can make them smaller, you can make them come up further, make them lower. The control is in your hands. And that's it for that. So next we've got optional soft circle pattern overlay. Now it says adjust levels. You'll see there's a levels smart filter on it. So it's very subtle. You can see the darkest one here. You can see a little bit here. So maybe you want it to be a little more prominent. If you double click the levels here, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically what they call curves for dummies. It's a simplified version of curves where you can control your darks, your midtones, and your lights. So if you want it to be darker, you could drag your midtones to the right and or drag your darks to the right, and you can make it a little more bold. So once you've got your color scheme set up, you can decide. There are a few where I made them a little bit bolder. Trying to remember this game day one here. I think there was another one. Like this is really dark, so I probably should have made them a little bolder where you can see them a little better, but it's up to you how bold you make them. But you have the ability to change the level of contrast depending on what color it's sitting on top of. This is a very bright white, so it doesn't take much. Of course, if you don't want to use it, just turn it off. Click on this little eyeball icon, turn it off, and you don't have to use it. Next, we have our spotlight effect. So basically, this is a soft, round, let's see, I'll show you. I'm going to go to normal and 100%, and that's what it looks like. So we'll get it back down to 50% or what? Yeah, 50% opacity, and I have it set to soft light. But depending on the color you have back there, you may want to see what it looks like with overlay. You can hardly tell on this one, but some colors you can tell quite a bit. So it's the spotlight. If I turn it off, you can see it just kind of flattens it out, makes it dark. This is just to really just draw your eye into the subject. And so it's just a matter of when you're at this point, look at it in, is it too bright? Is it too dark? You can adjust the level of opacity, and you can also adjust between soft light and overlay to decide which you like better. You can click on the constraints here and make it smaller or bigger. You can move it around if you want to, but more than likely you won't need to do any of that. Next we have our paper texture. This is extremely subtle, but if we zoom in, you can see we've got a paper texture here. It's hidden, but right here on the right hand side of the layer, this arrow, if you click on it, it will show you that there's hue saturation. Basically I wanted it desaturated, and that there's levels. So it's the same thing. If you want the paper texture to show up more, use the midtones, drag it to the right, or the darks, drag it to the right. You can get, carried away, so just be careful with it. But I set it to a nice subtle level that I thought looked good. The next layer we have is our vignette. This one's pretty important. I'm not sure everyone utilizes this as much as they should. But basically this is an exposure adjustment layer with a layer mask on it, and it just kind of darkens the corners, creates a vignette effect, and helps draw your eye into the subject. So I have this set to a level that I felt looked good for this bright white with this navy, but as I was creating my sample images, I found there were some situations where I decreased it, some situations where I increased it. And if you want to do that, it's very simple. You would just click right here on this icon, and it may pop out like this. I have it up here, but it'll bring up your properties in this very top slider. If you move it to the left, it's going to make it darker. You move it to the right, it's going to make it lighter. You can just play around with it and find the level that works for the image that you're creating. You can also click on these anchors here and scale it in, scale it out if you really want to fine tune it. But more than likely, you can probably just leave it just as it is for most images. So that was the bulk of it. We're almost done. That's the background layer folder at the bottom. Next we have our subject images. Very self-explanatory, but when you excuse me, when you insert your subject images, you will make sure that they're in this folder. It has a drop shadow on by default. You can turn it off if you don't want that. Turn it on, or you can double click and you can adjust these parameters if you want to: opacity, distance, spread, size, etc. But basically scale and position your subjects how you want them. Make sure they're in this folder so that this drop shadow will apply, and also this layer mask will apply. Now let's go ahead and talk about this, because this is one of the most common emails that I get, and I've been putting it in almost all of my tutorial videos, so most of you are probably already familiar with this. But if you need to adjust this, the way that it fades to transparency, this is a mask. So instead of it being a layer on top of the subject that covers it up, it's a mask that basically decreases opacity on a gradient. And so if you want to change that, what you can do is select the layer mask, so you can see it's highlighted. Come to your gradient tool, come up here, make sure that it's on black to white or white to black. Anything else isn't going to work, so make sure that you're on that. And then once you do, you can click where you want it to start, drag up. You can see, you get the idea. Drag up at where you want it to stop. Now, if you want it to make sure it's straight, hold down Shift. It'll kind of lock it into place. And what I try to do is bring it up. I'm going to bring this over, bring it up as far as I can where it won't be an issue, where you start to see that to show. So right there, and then you can come down to this bottom anchor. You can play around with it, but you can adjust that yourself, and it's very simple. So if you start working on it and you decide you don't like it, you can even come back to it, highlight it again, go to your gradient tool, and this will probably still be there, but if it's not, you just start over. It will just supersede the last mask that you had on there and replace it. Very simple. Common question. Last, we have our lower text layer. So let's take a look. Here you will see we have our font option choice. By default, we've got green on. Let's turn that off. Turn on the seafoam, and you can see it'll go to the alternate font option. So they're both exactly the same. We only need to look at one. So we've got our subject name. Now I have first name in navy, last name in red. If you want to maintain that and you're doing it manually, it's the same process. Double click the T, select first name only, and you would change it. And same thing, if you're changing the color, you would change it like that as well. Very simple. Let's see. Now, I think I have bold on by default. You could see what it looks like by turning bold off. That's up to you. Next, we have our senior, junior, sophomore, freshman. So you can turn all of them on, select all of them, click on senior, hold down shift, click on freshman, and you can come up here and change them all to the color that you want them to be. And then you would only turn on the one that you need for your image. Now, if you're using automation, you'll just rename one of these layers and just use one only, but it is set to center orientation, so it should stay centered no matter what you put in there. Next, we have our lower accent letter, and so you'll see this little M here. Now, this is an option, a universal option. You don't have to have it on, but it's also a good place if they've got a nice, relatively clean logo that you can put right there. That looks nice. And then I've got varsity down here, which you can have it say anything you want. You could have the year here, you could have really anything, or you can turn it off. Pretty simple. All right. Next, we have our paper texture, which basically, because this text is in front of the subject, I wanted it to have the paper texture on it as well without affecting the subject. We don't want a paper texture on our subject, so I have it clipped there. And that is it. So basically the same concepts apply to the other files. Your horizontal team images, your button, your game day, it's all the same stuff. Just pick which design concept that you want to use here in the background folder section. And then, of course, you can come up here and you can pick which font theme you want to go with, whether it's the regular green or the seafoam green. And you can stick with that. And just kind of scale and position things where they look good. And again, if you need help, look at some of the reference images that I have here. Give you some ideas, give you some inspiration, but there's tons of options with this one, which is something that I try to do on all of my designs. But that's enough for now. It's time to move on to the next one. If there's any questions that I haven't answered, shoot me an email, don@thirdcreative.com, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. But until the next one, thank you for watching, and we'll see you.